They're here. They're here. They're here. I finally did it. I found them. I found them in the wild at a Target. My number one most anticipated action figure of all time obviously after they started the Mirage line. This is it, the set, the Mirage Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4-pack set. And bam, there they are in all their glory. This is only my second Turtle 4-pack ever. The first one I have is the cartoon Turtles in Disguise, the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive from a couple years ago. I still haven't opened that yet. I have all 4 movie Turtles, but I got them all separately. I didn't get the Secret of the Ooze Turtles yet, and I didn't plunk down any money for the Samurai Turtles 3 Turtles, because I was waiting for these guys. I wanted to get these guys first out of the way, make sure I had them. And oh my god, I'm so hyped for this set. If you've watched any of my Mirage Turtle videos already, you know I love the Mirage Comics. I had, the Ford trade paperbacks, 20 years since they came out. And I read them countless times when I was a kid, and I love these designs. And this is more commonly referred to as the Jim Lawson set. And now a little explanation about that is that the sculptor that NECA brought in for these turtles actually designed these turtles with Jim Lawson's style in mind. Jim Lawson is an artist that helped Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, because you'll see, I'll show it off a little bit on the screen here, how sort of the art style of Eastman and Laird sort of changed from the first iteration. And NECA does have a set of turtles from the first iteration, the very first book. They definitely look different than what they look like now, but obviously those are super hard to get. That was way before I collected action figures, so I'm never gonna get them. And you can definitely see as the book went on, as the Mirage issues went on, the style of the turtles, even Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's style changed a little bit. It definitely modernized along the way, and Jim Lawson was one of the artists that helped them modernize the turtles, meaning he came in for penciling duties on some of the Mirage comic, on like random issues, and he definitely had his own unique style. However, he did say that as he drew the turtles, he did sort of try to recreate Eastman and Laird's style a little bit, so it's almost like a combination of all 3 of them, and that's what the sculptor on this series actually said he was trying to accomplish. So people refer to these as the Jim Lawson turtles, but it's not like Jim Lawson completely is, credited with designing the turtles in these sense. It's sort of a combination of some, a little Eastman, a little Laird, a little Lawson. And there easily could be another Mirage set down the line where the turtles are in slightly a different style. But these turtles in these form are what are burned into my memory from the Mirage books that I have. This is when the series really started to pick up. These are more geared towards the 4th book, which I'll show off on the screen a little bit. The 4th book where sort of Shredder came back, Casey Jones was introduced, and it definitely hit its stride a little bit then. And I cannot wait to open this. I've been so hyped for this. I've been so excited about this. So I'll go into maybe some more fine details a little bit later, but let's go over the packaging a little bit. So obviously windowed packaging, you got all 4 turtles. In the old comic book, obviously they weren't color coded yet, so all of them have red, which obviously is a little confusing, I guess, if you don't know what's what. I have seen some customizers do these guys with the colored bandanas, and it definitely looks pretty awesome still. But again, this is how I remember it from my childhood way back in the day. Just like NECA does with some of the 4-packs, it's got, the ground down here, so you can display them. You can use it as a display. It's got a background in the back and a ground down here. Closing the box, you have the amazing Kevin Eastman original art for just this box. I love this box. This is my favorite box of all time. If I rated boxes on this channel, this would be a 10 out of 10 box right here. It's amazing. It harkens back to those early issues because he's definitely got a style. It's a very, thick sort of inked style. And even, some of the poses and everything really harken back to a lot of the comics back in the days. You do have the Shredder clones on this cover here, which I have these guys in display. I have a video about them. Obviously Shredder in the back there. Shredder with the claw on the front too. But anyways, this art is freaking amazing. I absolutely love it. All right, and on the first side, you got two of the turtles. Who knows who these are? I think it's Raph and Donnie. I'm pretty sure, Raph and Donnie. Other side, Leonardo, and I'm guessing Michelangelo. On the back side, you got just what NECA likes to do. Action shots over here, one for each turtle. You got a group shot over to the right, which obviously I love. Other figures in the series. I have all these figures now. These two, I don't have Splinter yet. Splinter just came out. This guy just came out. And the Ultimate Foot Ninja just came out. So I don't have those three yet, but I got those three. But anyways, having said all that, this box, this packaging is just freaking amazing. I love it. I can't wait to get these guys out. Okay, as someone who's loved these comics, the Mirage Comics, since they were, I don't know, in their teenage years, I mean, this is just on another level to me of awesomeness. I'm so glad they included the tail, which, yes, that's a tail, okay? Obviously, I know, NECA strives for attention to detail, but I wasn't 100% sure, but it's there. The tails are there, just like the original forms, when it went to the, PG rated Ninja Turtles, they got rid of the tails for obvious reasons. But I mean, again, I've said this with the Mirage series before, this figure looks like it just jumped right off the page. Like, look at this, like compare it to this cover right here. All the colors that they got right, even, the orangish yellowish on the underside of the shell is so close to the original art. And this is book one, right? So this is Mr. Eastman. This is actually a painting by him. He did all the covers for the trade paperbacks that I have. And the Turtles, this Turtle set specifically reminds me of this cover right here. This cover, this is picture perfect. These Turtles right here. And I mean, getting them out of the box up close and everything, like I'm a super big fan of cell shading. I've said that before on figures. I wish more series would do it like NECA. NECA's the king at cell shading. And just here, it looks so good. And they even got it on parts you wouldn't expect. Like if you lift up his arms, even sort of the rib cage right there has cell shading on it. There's even cell shading if you look under the shell right there. So they actually, this torso, whatever's here, they actually painted that before they put this shell on top. So there's a little bit of it poking out up on each shoulder. But like the attention to detail like that is amazing. I love the cell shading and the texture on the shell. All the hash marks on all the belts. And this is Raphael. I'll show off each turtle quickly, but the articulation is about the same. So we'll look at them all, but maybe not in every sort of fine detail. But this is Raph. You can tell, right? And I'm so blown away by how it just jumps off the page. Especially the colors. The colors, they matched so well. And this was definitely before the turtles sort of had, the different skin tones. So all the turtles in this set are all the same skin tone. And obviously all the same bandana color too. So that's why it's hard to tell them apart. You can tell them apart though. If you take off their head, they actually do have a letter in the head. I had to take the comics out. The dumb camera wouldn't focus. They each have a letter in their head so you could tell who they are. If you pop the heads off or you swap around accessories or something like that and you really need to, you get them confused, you can pop the head off and see the letter underneath. Or, eventually there might be alternate heads, right? Because that's one thing in the set that's not in there is multiple heads. So they each have their static sort of, face, which is a familiar face from the comic book. If you have read the comic books, these faces are, right out of the comic book essentially. But I know there's been some other looks. Like I'd love for them to get an alternate headset eventually of when they had the breathing apparatus coming out of their mouth when they were in Fugitoid's world and fought the Triceratons in the arena. I think that would be amazing to have a set like that. Amazing. So build quality, this is NECA quality, just like the other turtles. It's nice and beefy. These ones, you know, stylistically are super beefy, especially the legs. If you look at the legs, like if you cross that off, the turtles look about the same as maybe some turtles in the past, but then you get the legs in there. The legs are super chunky boys. But it does match the aesthetic of the comic book, it does match the style and everything. And that's what these are, style, all style. And, you know, I hope the substance is good too. So that was Raphael. This is Michelangelo. He does have, you know, a different look on his face, a little bit of a smirk, you know, it's Michelangelo. But essentially the same sort of style notes as Raphael, I guess. The cell shading all goes down to the leg and everything. There's no nunchuck holder on the belt. He typically kept them in here on the sides in the comic book. So there's no like holder on the back either. So, but this is Michelangelo. There he is, Mikey. But he's obviously pretty similar to Raph. A big difference, as you can see, sort of the cell shading, the battle damage on Raph is definitely more intense than on Mike, which is a pretty cool touch if you ask me. Obviously, Raph does get beat up a little bit more, and he does a little bit more beating too. So next up we have Donnie, who has a very stoic look to his face. You know, he's very serious, very serious. You can tell it's Donnie because he does have a spot there for his bow staff. About the same battle damage and shading as Michelangelo. And again, I mean, the cell shading looks so good. We're going to go over the articulation in a second. Let's keep checking out the turtles. All right, last but not least, Leonardo. Obviously you can tell it's him because he's got the straps going around the back. And the original comic, you know, differentiates from some of the newer stuff, the cartoon and everything, because the straps don't crisscross or anything, and the swords come out at the same angle, whereas most other versions of him, you know, they're in an X pattern, you know, one over each shoulder. So this obviously, you know, matches the comic book. It's a little bit different too. I love the styling on it. It's textured, and it looks really good, and it seems pretty firm in there, which is good. Because my Turtles in Time Leo, the back thing is very loose. It falls down when you put the swords in and stuff. It's not good. But this feels very solid. So let's touch on the articulation now. Obviously, you know, there's a ball joint in the head that you saw when we popped off the heads. So they can go full around. They can go up pretty well. They can go down pretty well. They actually look really good looking down like that. They do come with alternate bandanas, which I'll show in the accessories in a minute. So most of them have the bandanas, or all of them out of the package, it looks like have the bandanas draping over the shoulders. But as you know, some of the pictures on, you know, the old comic books, the cover that I showed off just a little while ago, some of the bandanas are like blowing in the wind, and so it does come with a set of those, 4 of those essentially. There is no articulation in the neck, but I mean the head moves really good. Like, I don't think you can not get the pose you want just because the neck doesn't move essentially. So, you know, I think it looks pretty good like that. On the arms, you got a, you know, hinge that goes up to there. You can definitely go around the world. It does have a bicep swivel, double joints. So there is double elbows right here. And it does come with alternate hands. Each turtle doesn't necessarily have a full set of hands because they're all interchangeable, right? So it comes with 6, 7, 8 other hands. So the turtles have their hands, and it comes with 8 other hands, so you can mix and match however you want. One thing that I did notice, I did hear this, is with the hands, they do hinge forward and backwards, and all the hands hinge forward and backwards. There's no up and down hands, and apparently some people want up and down hands, you know what I mean? I'm indifferent to it, I guess, as it stands right now, but that could be an issue if it's an issue for you. It's definitely an issue. However, I would imagine that these hands are compatible with, I don't know, probably the cartoon turtles and stuff. They actually come out really easy. Maybe these are compatible with the cartoon turtles. So if you don't have the exact hands you want with this set, maybe you can, I don't know, borrow some from the turtles as long as the color matches and everything. But I do love these double elbows. All right, going down to the waist, there is a little bit of a movement there, not a lot. It does have, you know, one of the diapers. I like to call them diapers. It's got a soft plastic diaper over the top, not down the middle necessarily, but that does move. It does have a hinge right there, a ball joint of some sorts. There is some movement there. Obviously the shell will hinder movement a little bit. It's a turtle after all, a turtle. And then the legs can go almost, got a pretty good range right there. Pretty good range out there. Oh yeah, that's a nice joint right there. So you can get all sorts of movement with the legs too. And double knees. Double knees, double knees, double knees. So double elbows, double knees. There are pins on this. I'm indifferent to that too. I'm indifferent to a lot of stuff. All right, feet go back about that far. Forward about that far, not very much. And there's just a little rotation. And there's no necessarily side to side. So, I mean, the feet are gonna be, they're very chonky, right? Like the feet seem like they're gonna be a little limited. The legs a little limited. The movement up and down is really good. But to get, you know, sort of a base standing up pose, it's probably gonna be pretty neutral poses, but we'll see. And I'm not going to go over every turtle. All the articulation is the same. So they all move exactly like what I just showed you on Leo right here. And there's no surprises. They move very well. They are very chonky. They're very sturdy. But I mean, to me, these turtles are like my dream set of turtles. These are so perfect for me, right? This is a personal thing. I had these Mirage Comics when I was younger, and I stared at them. I read those books 100 times. I loved them more than, you know, the cartoon growing up or anything like that. The Playmates toys when they came out, I still love the old, you know, designs with the red bandanas, a little bit of an attitude, blood and guts in the comic book. It wasn't all, you know, jokes and sunshine or anything like that. And I don't think I could have asked for anything more visually, style-wise, from these turtles. They look so amazing. I love the cell shading. Oh, I do love the articulation. I think it's very good with double elbows and the double knees. I love, you know, the chonky legs. I love that they all have their little tail poking out. I have no complaints. Zero complaints thus far, straight out of the package, just like this, without playing with them. Zero complaints. All right, so we're going to check out the accessories next and talk about things. All right, so we're going to go over character-specific stuff first. So we're just going to start with Raph. So obviously he's got his two sides here. I adore the coloring on these. Coloring on these really matches the comic book. I know I'm going to say that 100 times before this video ends. Then that's the purpose of these figures, but it does. Like the color, like it's white and a light blue, and that's the way it was in the comic book. And I just love every detail of it. I love the handle. It's got the cell shading on the handle. You know, just the color of it is just amazing. It's very, very strong plastic, and I like it. Probably one of my favorite, I don't know, style of size that have come out for NECA Turtles. And Raph does have a special couple other accessories. So he's got a hood right here, which is sort of his Wanderer costume. There's issues in the comic book where he's sort of going on like solo adventures. So let's talk about this a little bit. Like there's some issues where Raph just went solo and he's sort of, you know, the Wanderer. He met Triceraton General Zog in the sewers in this sort of costume. But other turtles have worn this too. Like the cool thing about the original Mirage comic book, to be honest with you, especially book 4, is book 4, the original Ninja Turtles movie, the live action movie, the original, actually shares a lot of story notes from those original sort of 4 books. It sort of takes place, you know, the Shredder battle is from book 1. You know, Casey Jones in the battle in, you know, April's The Antique Shop, that is from book 4, The Return of the Shredder. Even though, you know, there's some new stuff in it, right? And the comic book where it differentiates from the movie a little bit is in the movie, obviously, Raphael was, you know, out on the rooftop. He got beat up quite a lot, and, you know, they had to sort of nurse him back to health. Well, in the comic books, it was Leonardo that got beat up like that, and they nursed him back to health. And Leonardo actually wore this hood, or a hood like this. It was a little bit longer than this. But in my mind, that's what I associate this with, is when Leonardo was healing and they were, you know, in the snow, living in the woods, hiding out. And Leonardo was sort of, you know, the solo one who would go out in the woods and hunt and try to heal himself and hone his skills. And he wore a hood just like this too. So this hood, obviously you could put on any turtle, but it's specific. It is made for Raphael, for his sort of, wanderer sort of solo look. And it goes with this arm too. He actually comes with an injured arm here with the sort of bandana on it. I don't know if I'd be able to identify what exact issue of the comic book this was in to put a picture here, but as far as I understand, any of the turtles can fit this on their arm, so you can injure any of them essentially. But it's just a replacement arm with a nice sculpted on bandage here, because he got hurt, he got injured. It's a different color tone than the elbow guard and in the wrist wrap, which is a cool touch there. But there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously there's no hand there, so you just pop off the arm on the body and put this on. All right, and here he is with this sort of wanderer hood on. It looks fantabulistic on him. Fantastic. And he's got the arm right there with the bandage on it. So this is most likely the way I'm gonna display him on the shelf when I get him there. He looks really good. It's got a good texture to it. The turtles too, I didn't even mention before, but the turtles actually have textured skin here. It's not completely smooth, and that's a really nice touch. Like a really nice touch. It feels really good in your finger. You could actually feel, the textured skin. It feels, sort of like a reptile skin, like rubbery skin. Oh man, such a good job. And I love this look with the hood. It looks so good, especially with that snarl on his face, his signature snarl. It does have cell shading on it. Like I said, the texture is sort of, that cross weave texture, like a burlap sack or something like that. Man, that looks good. That looks so good. One more note to put this on, you do need to remove the bandana. They're obviously just in there with a peg hole, because we know, comes with more of them. So just take that off before you put the hood on. All right, next up, we got a couple nunchuckers. Michelangelo's next, obviously. And just like the original comic books, it was just a string attaching the nunchucks. It was not, they were super plain. They were just wood, string in between. There was no, chain back then or anything. So this obviously, it follows that, right? Obviously this could be fancier. There's definitely been fancier Michelangelo nunchucks along the way, but this does match the Mirage Comics. And, it is what it is. Looks really good. I don't know how sturdy they are, so don't go too crazy. All right, and he sort of kept them just in his side, just like that. That's why there's nothing on the belt to hold them, like some of, his other versions eventually. But that's sort of the way he kept them there. Ooh, I lost one. All right, there's also 3 ninja stars, 3 throwing stars, shurikens, if you will. And they look really good. They're, really solid plastic. They're very sharp and pointy. And, obviously, there's been a lot of these in the comic books that aren't character specific, I don't think. But there's 3 of them here. It's kind of weird that there's not 4 of them, 1 for each. But anyways, they didn't mainly throw these. The foot soldiers mainly threw these at Leonardo. I'll show you. But again, they're the same coloring as the other weapons, that bluish, whitish color. And, I love the look of them. I love the coloring. All right, next up, Donatello's bow staff, which is pretty amazing bow staff if you ask me. The difference, it seems to me, from the bow staffs I've seen in the past is the wrapping is on more of the staff. Usually it's the definitely smaller wrapping in the middle. But again, matches the comic book. Looks really good. It does have that 2-tone. It's not the same brown. It looks really good. One thing to note is this bow staff doesn't come apart in the middle. Some of them come apart in the middle because it helps, I guess, get it in his hand a little bit easier. But this one is just one solid piece as far as I could tell. Maybe not, but I'm not going to try. But there's Donatello's bow staff. It's huge. It's very long. It's almost as tall as he is. And then last but not least, weapon-wise, Leonardo's swords. These are probably my favorite looking Leonardo swords out of any NECA Ninja Turtle that I have in my collection. These are amazing. Amazing. I love the blue. It's got the yellow, finger guard right there. You have the brown grip on there with the cell shading, and then more of that metallic on the bottom, that metallic bluish white. And you can see how the color changes. It's the edge of the blade is white and the rest of it's blue. Man, this looks so good. Looks so good, and they're very sturdy. They're not bent right out of the package like a McFarlane figure, you know what I'm saying? These look so good. And they do go, obviously, right in his back, just like that. And like I said, most of the other versions of Leonardo, the swords are crisscrossed, but on these original Mirage ones, they were just both coming out one side, which is why this isn't crisscrossed either, right? Like it's both going to one side rather than like an X. Oh man, this brings me back. It looks so good. Shishing, 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 shishing. Oh, Leonardo, you look so good, man. Like I said before, there are alternate bandanas. I really like how they didn't just, forget about these or not do the attention to detail on these, because they all have really cool cell shading on them. Cool cell shading both sides. They look really good. It comes with 4 of them, so you can put one on each turtles. If that's your style, you can mix and match however you want. So obviously, this just pop the other one out and pop this one in. But again, it looks so good. The attention to detail, the cell shading. All right, there's Leo with the sort of free-flowing bandana. And it looks, I don't know, it looks so great. Looks like the wind is, he's got it. It's very angular. It's very, stylized to the original comic book. And again, this whole set is style. I love it all. Every millimeter, every centimeter of these turtles. And like I said, there's a bunch of extra hands in the playset too. There's basically a set of each style hand, but you can just mix and match however you want them in your display, right? So there's some, sprawling hands. There's another sort of grip hand. They all come with grip hands already. This is a slightly different style with the grip in the middle is a little open. So I think these are like Raph's hands where he can hold his size where the point's coming out the middle, like he's done in the comic book before. There's obviously some punching hands, and then there's just sort of straight hands, just some neutral hands right there. So there are plenty of options to get them, I don't know, however you want them to look in your display. It is kind of, I don't know, this is the only one with cell shading on it. I wonder, I guess it's because it's closed, it has cell shading on it. The rest of them, none of them have any cell shading at all. So that's an interesting choice, but I guess this one has got, obviously the shadows on it that they wanted to capture with the cell shading. All right, here's all 4 of them standing up. Obviously there's a lot of reuse in between them, essentially. They're the same turtle, really. There's some differences, like the shading is different, but a lot of the sculpt work and the parts are the same. So obviously they're the same exact height and everything, which is about a little under 6 inches. So they're actually not as tall as some of the other turtles in the other turtle lines. And since they're all about the same size, here's how one of them compares to some of the rest of the Mirage line. We got Triceratops Zog here, which, him, Casey, and Shredder. I have videos of those guys on the channel already. If you'd like to watch them, then please feel free. And as you can definitely tell, the turtles are definitely a little bit shorter than all the others, even Shredder. About almost an inch probably shorter than Shredder and Casey Jones, which look fantastic. I love how their figures look in this line. And obviously everyone pales in comparison to Triceratops Zog, who's the king of the figures right now. Alright, well this is my Ninja Turtle set. This was made for me. NECA can read my mind. This is what I wanted with a Mirage Turtle set. These look so good, so good. And this pose, I've actually recreated the cover of book 2, the Kevin Eastman painting. And I can almost recreate it exactly how it looks. Oh my gosh, I love this set. It's got that amazing NECA quality to it. All the accessories are good. It is pretty light on accessories, I would say. It might be a little expensive for some people compared to the number of accessories that you get. And I really hope they do release an accessory pack eventually with, alternate heads and maybe some other stuff throughout the comic book's lifespan. But as for the 4 base turtles in the Mirage Comics style, the cel-shaded style, I could not ask for anything more. I love this set. I love the shading. I love the colors. I love the articulation. I love the weapons. They fit in perfectly with the rest of the Mirage Comics universe thus far. And I really love doing the research for these episodes, the Mirage episodes, reading through the back issues and everything. And I'd love to talk about it. If you're a big fan of this series, let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. This is so nostalgic for me. Brings me back to when I was a teenager. My ratty old Ninja Turtle books still lying around. And man, oh man, this is just a complete home run for me. The style, the box art, everything. Everything. I love it all. But guys, gals, non-binary pals, thanks for watching another episode. Keep hitting that, subscribing and liking button and stuff like that, And hang out with me. Let's enjoy our plastic together. I mean, what else are you going to do with it? So anyways, peace out. Thank you for watching. And I'll catch up with more NECA and G.I. Joe stuff.